Morning guys and welcome. Today I'm going to look at starting up a new koi pond, so more specifically a new koi pond filter. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through my method for doing this. There are a myriad of different ways of doing it. Everybody has their own kind of method and opinions on it. I'll take you through what I've used over 25 years now. I've honed this method, started up several koi ponds, never had an issue, always relatively quick, and more importantly safe for the koi. So we'll go through that. I'll tell you how to do it in what in my opinion is the best way. Okay, so firstly, just very brief overview of filtration. What is koi pond filtration? So break it down into two distinct parts really. There's mechanical filtration, which is the waste from the fish, the solid waste, leaves, uneaten food, any kind of solid debris that finds its way into your water. Mechanical filtration is the act of taking that out. So if you imagine a colander in the kitchen, you pour your water in with your peas in, the water goes through, the peas are collected. That's mechanical filtration, and that enables you to see your koi easily through the window if you have one. It means the water is physically clear to the eye. Also keeps the debris from collecting on the bottom and harbouring bacteria, etc. So that's mechanical filtration. Now the second part, and the part that we're going to talk about today really, is biological filtration. Now biological filtration is the stuff you can't see, but koi themselves produce ammonia. Now this is a byproduct of their everyday existence, so eating, food, survival, everything they do, they produce as a result ammonia, and ammonia becomes quickly toxic to koi. So if you don't have any biological filtration, you leave the koi in the pond with water in, you feed them, very quickly the ammonia will build up to a point where it becomes toxic and it can kill the fish. So biological filtration is concerned with safely removing that harmful ammonia, and it's done in two stages, and it's done by bacteria. So basically the process of starting up a new filter is concerned with creating colonies of bacteria within your filter where your water is passed through, and those bacteria colonies consume the ammonia. That's their food source. So what you need, Bob, basically, as with everything, it's not always that simple. The bacteria that consume the ammonia in the biological filter, the byproduct of that process, their waste product if you like, unfortunately is nitrate. And nitrate, like ammonia, can quickly builds up and becomes toxic to koi. So rather than just one colony of bacteria to deal with the ammonia, you actually need two colonies. You need a second colony which relies on nitrate for its food source, and those guys, as a result of them consuming the nitrate, they produce nitrate, which thankfully is safer for the koi, and which you don't need to worry about as much. And I do have a video on nitrate on my channel if you want to look into that in more detail. But predominantly the biological filter contains bacteria which, via the nitrification process, which is what that process is called, turns the harmful ammonia that your koi produce into safe nitrate. By this two-step process, ammonia to nitrate, then nitrate to nitrate, separate colonies of bacteria for each step. So the process of starting up a new koi filter then is getting that filter up to a point where the colonies of each of those required bacteria is large enough that it can consume safely all the ammonia that your koi can throw at it. Okay, so you're ready to fill up your pond, be it a rubber line, a fiberglass, painted concrete, whatever it may be. First thing you need to do, with the hose pipe, just hose the walls and the bottom of the pond down, the windows inside, all the inside surfaces, and then fill the pond up. Then empty it, pump it out completely, then refill it. Now it's quite a myth that we need to treat tap water or we need to wait for something to happen. It's simply not the case. The best water you'll get is the water that comes out the tap. It's good enough to drink, it is bang on, and our job as koi keepers really is to maintain that water as close to that as we can, so minimize the deterioration. Now the water itself, your water company will put chlorine and or chloramine in there. This is basically a protective wrapper on the water, and this ensures it gets to you in your house in the same perfect condition that it leaves the water treatment works. Unfortunately, chlorine and chloramine are harmful to koi, so we need to remove that protective wrapper. But as I say, once that wrapper is removed, the water is at its best then, and it will only get worse from there. It'll only deteriorate. So to remove it, if you have a dechlorinator, what I would suggest is you bypass it and you simply fill it from the hose. If you only have chlorine in there, if you turn on the air, as you can see in my pond here, within a few hours, certainly within 12, and if you want to be extreme belt and braces, 24 hours, the chlorine will have gone. It will gas off naturally. Chloramines, unfortunately, if you have them in your supply, and I suggest you ask your provider, if you do, they won't gas off. You need to remove those. Several ways of doing it. Something like this Tetra product, AquaSafe, you can just stick a bit of that in. That will take out chlorine and chloramine. The best way, sodium thiosulfate. So these are crystals, they look like that. I don't know if you can see them, but basically they're crystals. This is the stuff that this solution is made from. So predominantly sodium thiosulfate in deionized water or even just normal water, sold with koi tax on, where this stuff, a few quid off eBay in its natural form, will last you for years. And simply throw that in. You can make up a solution first if you like, or you can just put it straight in the water. To be honest, there's no koi in there, so just get it straight in the water. That will take out chlorine and chloramine. Okay, so we need to establish a level of ammonia that becomes harmful to your koi, and then through the startup process we want to try and keep that ammonia in the pond at that level, or should I say just below that level, so that it's the highest it can be without causing harm to your koi. The higher it is, the quicker those colonies will build and grow, but obviously the higher it is, the more dangerous it is to your koi. So you need to know what level you can allow it to go up to before it becomes toxic to your koi. And that's not as straightforward as you may think, because it's different. It changes all the time. Now again, I do have a video on ammonia. If you want to go into much more detail about ammonia toxicity, it's on there. But for today, we need to know two things. One, ammonia toxicity level is affected by pH, so the pH of your pond water. And secondly, the ammonia toxicity level is affected by the temperature of your pond water. So first step you need to do, go out, measure your pH of your water, and while you're doing that, measure the pH of the water out of the tap as well. Useful thing to know, and we'll come on to that. Measure the pH of your pond water. Secondly, measure the temperature of your pond water, and then I'll put this up on the screen, but there's a chart for determining the toxicity of the ammonia. Now, as you can see on the chart there, it varies a lot. So if we look at an example of a pH of 8, for example, so you find 8 down the left hand column, and then you read along until you're under the temperature that your water is at. So let's say 20 degrees. So if you come down from 20 degrees across from 8, where they cross is the level of ammonia you can allow before it becomes toxic to your koi. In that example, it's 0.52. Okay, so that figure you need to calculate for your particular pond at the time that you're starting up the filter. I'll give you another quick example. If we go to 7.5 and we read along and we say our pond water is 16 degrees C, then the level that we can allow of ammonia is 2.17. So you can see the effect that has, 0.52 versus 2.17. It makes a huge difference. So this is why you need to calculate it for your specific pond. So work out that figure for your pond, write that down. That is the figure that you're going to rely on throughout this process. Very important. And what I would suggest is that you recheck that weekly, because the temperature will change, the pH may change, the pH will change actually, because when you start to feed, that will change the pH. So recheck that weekly, Write that new figure down. That is the figure you need to focus on, you need to keep in mind. And that is the figure that you need to keep the ammonia below throughout this process. But you need to go as close to that as you can without going over or without reaching it, in order to reduce the time it takes to establish the colonies of bacteria in your filter. Now, in terms of testing the pH, several ways. You can buy a specific koi test kit such as this one. This is a dropper test kit, the NT Labs one. These are good, consistent, reasonably accurate. Or if you have a test kit anyway, which you should have, I use the Columbo. There is a pH in this as well, so you can test the pH of your water with that. You can use electronic pen type tests. I would avoid them, to be honest. They're kind of a bit of a lazy man's. They're quick, you dip them in and it gives you a number, but they're really not accurate. You almost need to calibrate them every time you use them for them to be any kind of accuracy. They're not great. I would avoid. I would stick with a dropper test kit. While ultimately the accuracy of the dropper test may be a little more coarse, they're more consistent, which is what you need. So go for a dropper test kit if you can. Okay, so now you know the water is ready for fish. Next thing to do is get some koi in. Again, a myth. People wait for a period of time, or people start adding filter start bacteria, etc. without koi in. You may as well just tip the money down the drain. Without koi producing ammonia, any bacteria you add will simply die of starvation. They need ammonia to survive. That's their food source. So get the fish in first, get the koi in. Koi will produce ammonia for about 48 hours after they've stopped, after they're last fed. So they feed here for 48 hours, it will tail off. After 48 hours they won't produce any more ammonia. So if the fish you're putting in have been fed recently, they will produce ammonia, no problem. Get them in. Also, if you get yourself a bottle of this is a filter start gel. This one's Pure Plus Evolution Aqua. I do recommend this product. There are many other products. I haven't tried them all. I can't say this is the best, but I have tried this and it worked absolutely brilliant for me. So I can recommend Pure Plus Gel. This stuff contains the bacteria that you need in your filter. Just to give you an idea, I started this pond up in June. It's only a little pond, just under 1,000 gallons, but I started this up in June. I put the fish in on a Monday, I fed them on the Tuesday, and from that Tuesday onwards I missed only a few days here, the odd day here and there, probably a week in total. So next to no new pond syndrome, feeding from the start right through, no problem at all, using the method that I'm talking about today. So get your fish in. As I say, if you're waiting for chlorine to gas off, give it 24 hours after you fill it, then get your fish in. Now, if your koi have been fed, as I say, they will produce ammonia. So the following day after they go in, test the water for ammonia. And again, many different test kits out there. I do recommend the Columbo. Again, this is the one I use. But as long as you use the dropper type test kits with the water bottles, they're all very similar. So get yourself a test kit, test the ammonia. Okay, if you have a reading of ammonia, Pure Plus Gel, tip this into your filter biological section. So the media in the biological part of your filter, pour this gel onto the filter media. That will seed and get you started, get those colonies seeded and get them started. If you don't have ammonia on that first reading, then you need to feed your fish. Give them a good feed once, one day, and then stop. That's all. And then repeat the process the following day. Test again. If you have a reading, okay, well and good, as long as it's below the dangerous level. If not, feed them again. And it's just a case now of literally feeding and testing. The amount of ammonia that your koi produce ultimately is related directly to how much food you put in. So you control the level of ammonia in your pond water with the food that you put in. So if your ammonia is very low and you need more, give them more food. If the ammonia is high and it's getting close to your upper limit, don't feed them again. until it starts to come down. And basically you need to balance, and you want to keep the level of ammonia as close as you can to that dangerous limit without going over. But obviously the closer you go to it, the quicker your colony will grow, but obviously the more risk there is of you going over. Now, the size of the filter colony will grow to the food source. So basically what you're trying to do is get that colony big enough that it can handle all the food that you're going to give your koi. Now, at some point you will see your ammonia level start to come down, and that is happening because the bacteria in your biological filter are now consuming ammonia. So based on what I said earlier, when ammonia is being consumed, you now know that nitrite is starting to be produced. And nitrite really is the same kind of process. Measure the nitrite. In the case of nitrite, 0.25 is the limit really. You don't want to go above 0.25. And nitrite is more stubborn than ammonia to get the colony going. So it is a little more difficult and it's a little more stubborn. But again, ultimately, the more food you put in, the more ammonia, and so the more nitrite. It is a case of just balancing those two things now. And as I say, if either the ammonia or the nitrite get close to that limit, then simply stop feeding. If you get over the limit, you need to bring it down. It's not a mad panic. I wouldn't recommend any of the kind of ammonia binding products or things like that, because they just set back the whole process really when you start to do that. Simply stop feeding. Change some water, so remove maybe 20% of your pond water and top it up with fresh water from the tap. Again, dechlorinate if you need to, or dechloramine if you need to, but that will dilute the ammonia. And basically you're better off just sitting it out. If it does continue to get high, if you remember the graph, the chart at the beginning, pH has a massive influence on the ammonia toxicity. If the ammonia gets up and it's getting toxic levels and you want to bring it down, then a product that reduces pH in your pond will very quickly render ammonia no longer toxic. If you refer back to the chart, and if you do get up and you see that you're in the kind of starting to get into the toxic levels, you can read from the chart what you need to reduce your pH to in order for that level of ammonia to no longer be toxic, and you can add the necessary amount of pH reducing product. In terms of nitrite, again, dilution, change some water if it gets up too high, stop feeding again obviously until it comes back down. If it continues to go up and you're worried, salt, you can add salt to your pond, which will counteract the toxicity of nitrite. I don't recommend it, only as a last option, but if you absolutely have to, you can add some salt to take away that nitrite toxicity. The good news is, although it's not pleasant to your fish and it causes harm, if you do any damage from ammonia or nitrite during this process, it will be repaired. The koi will recover within weeks of returning to good safe levels, unless of course you take it so far that you actually kill the fish. But they will recover from some small amounts of damage, and there won't be any adverse effects long term. So basically then, you need to just apply common sense now. You need to monitor the ammonia, you need to monitor the nitrite, you need to kind of follow where they are, whether they're going up, whether they're coming down, and you need to put food in for your fish accordingly really to maintain those levels. And what you'll find is that you'll reach a point where you can throw as much food as your koi can eat, as much as you want, and your filter will cope with it, it'll take it out, you'll not get any ammonia reading and any nitrite reading of note, and at that point your filter is fully started. Now, in terms of timescales, this can literally, as I said to you, from day one really I saw very few readings that became problematic. It can take 6 months, it can take 6 days, it all depends on many factors. The biggie for me is pH. I'm lucky in that my pH is 7.5 out the tap and 7.5 in the pond, so I can allow my ammonia to go up very relatively high levels without a problem. People with a pH of 8.5 out of the tap, the koi would be dead. If they allowed the ammonia to go up as high as I could with a pH of 7.5. So the pH really is the thing that will dictate how long this takes and how patient and slow you have to take it. But if you've got a low pH, 7.5 kind of area, then it can be very, very quick and very, very straightforward. Still straightforward if your pH is higher, but you need to take it a little more cautiously and put a bit more effort into it, unfortunately. And in terms of the Pure Plus gel, as I say, probably once you start to get a good reading of ammonia every other day, I like to add a little bit of this, the least every third day. Just pour some into your biological media, as I say, every second day or every third day during that process, while you have a level of ammonia present, and you will be fine. I think I've covered everything I wanted to there, so if there's anything I've missed, anything else you'd like to know that I've not covered, please just leave me a comment, let me know. I answer all the comments straight away. So yeah, do ask if there's anything I've missed. In terms of the video itself, if it was useful to you, if you like the video, please do hit the like button. It really does make a big difference. Please leave some feedback, some comments, good, bad, ugly. I like to read them all. I do answer them all. If this is the first video you've seen of mine, do check out the other videos on my channel. There's a lot of videos on there, a lot of good stuff on there. And please, if you want to see future videos, do hit the subscribe button and do hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. As always, until the next video, take care, look after yourself, and I will see you in the next one.